The fastest growing luxury SUV market is something full of a lot of tight competitors. So I think it's time we sit down and talk about the Genesis GV70 and compare it to the Lexus NX350. And this time, I'm gonna go through a clipboard of details and information. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video to see which one is right for you. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. Okay, so before even getting super into the Genesis, I already learned one of the coolest facts that give this a big step up versus a lot of competitors in the market, and that is the engine choices. So you can still get a GV70 Sport with a 3.5 liter turbocharged engine. In this segment, that makes this car a rocket ship with 375 horsepower and 391 foot-pounds of torque. Now that's on the fully loaded one, which in Canada right now retails above the 84,000 mark. But then I remembered, horsepower isn't for everybody, and that's where the Lexus really comes in. So the Lexus has so many different trims and configurations, starting with the lowest model, being the NX250. This is a car that has pretty much the same powertrain as the Toyota RAV4, a 2.5 liter, 4-cylinder, tried and true engine that takes regular gas, and not any numbers of horsepower to write home about. And then we go up to the NX350. Now that is when we start to see a turbocharged engine. So increasing the horsepower and the torque from the turbocharger engine, which I didn't actually write down the spec here, but it boosts it well into like the 275 mark and around the same in torque. In that series, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different models. And I like to break them down into 2 separate lines to be able to go through them easier. So we have the premium package and the F-Sport 1 at the bottom of each one of those lineups. Then we have the luxury package on this side and the F-Sport 2 on this side. Ultra luxury up from the luxury. And then the F-Sport 3 and executive at the top end. And that's just on the gas turbocharged NX350. If we go over to the hybrid model, we have a premium package, a luxury package, an ultra luxury package, and an executive package. And of course, that amazing tried and true Toyota Lexus hybrid powertrain, which they've been doing it for decades now, so they've really got it down pat. And that hybrid engine takes regular fuel, even though it says online recommended, it can still take regular fuel. And now we have a powertrain that doesn't have crazy horsepower, but for the size of the vehicle, we have an amazing fuel economy that sometimes can even get you like 800 kilometers to a tank of gas. Then from there, we have one more secret weapon, the NX450H Plus. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but the NX can come in a plug-in hybrid form, meaning instead of like the range anxiety of a plug-in full EV, we also have the hybrid powertrain. So you can plug it in overnight and you can still put gas in it, and the two will work together in collaboration, as a millennial would say, to give you a better, further range by plugging it in every night. And you can have it in full EV mode, and I do a whole video on that. So that's all the configurations of the NX. The Genesis has 3 trims with a 2.5 liter turbo, the tech package, the prestige package, and then there's that sport package, which is the fast one with the 3.5 turbo, which even the 2.5 liter turbo Genesis has 300 horsepower, which is super impressive. Again, especially in this size of vehicle. So we could sit here and go through all the facts and features, or I could just show you them on the car. So I think let's look at them on the car. So let's get into the front of these vehicles. And might I say, do we have a close competition? The Genesis has a very classy and timeless design with this really cool, like a dark chrome grille. It is plastic, and it reminds me of the Lexus spindle grille in a lot of ways. We have some openings in the center, but the sides are all sort of like taped off with some plastic, and again, I'm sure that's for aerodynamic. A body line I didn't notice until right now is actually sort of midway, and it's big. There's like a big fin right here, which I really like. To the sides, we have those little corner grills, which seem to be active. I can stick my finger in there. We have a sensor, I think it's a sensor, on this little square bit towards the bottom lower grill, which I think is a great idea because I remember seeing a lot of big spindle grills like this covered up halfway for those radar sensors, but now we've moved them down to the bottom. We have some true chrome, and that's a little bit different than the grille chrome at the bottom. And again, just a really sharp sort of like body line on that front. The headlights are probably what stick out the most to me on the Genesis. They have a really nice aura to them. That's probably the word I'm gonna use with the Genesis today is aura, I think. Where we see some dimension there. The headlights themselves have so many different filaments. I noticed that on the GV80 when I did that video, where some of them are for looking and some of them are just for looks. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think they look super sharp. Then we have a little bit of an indentation here on a pretty big hood, and it's pretty long, like it doesn't slope a whole lot. A little bit of a body line off to the side there as well. And then that beautiful Genesis logo, which again, has some really nice detail. If you get up close to it, it even feels nice to touch. Not that I recommend going around touching people's hood emblems. That's not what I'm about, but it does look cool. Also, the color itself is like a very classy dark green to me. And when I was at their dealership picking this up today, I did see some other really classy colors that are just different. Like when you think of classy, it doesn't have to just be black, even though I love a black car. It doesn't have to be gray, it doesn't have to be silver. It can be these greens or bluish silvers and stuff like that. Like you can mix it in there. It's all about how you pull it off, just like a good tailored suit. Over to the Lexus. And again, this is my bread and butter, so I'm gonna be able to speak to it a little bit differently. We have that straight up and down grille and front end. This one's the executive package, so it's not quite the hatching of the F-Sport spindle grille. It's more of the conservative style, as well as that Lexus emblem in the center, some venting at the bottom. I always think that the executive has such a less aggressive front end than like the F-Sport counterpart. We have some intakes off to the side, a quartering lamp and fog lamp at the bottom, which I noticed the Genesis does not have, but that's okay. Maybe the other packages do. A little bit of piano black, a little bit of a body kit here, and then that nice daytime running light that's above the triple beam LED headlights. And again, when we talk about a lot of those features like intelligent high beam and stuff like that, I'm sure every brand in this segment at this price point is going to have that. And then we have our turning lamp, which is incorporated into that as well. So both really classy designs. I will also say, when you look at the hoods, the hood is a different vibe. It's way more sloped on the NX, and it has this line that sort of like fades to the center, just giving it a little bit more angles when you're looking at the NX. It just has a bit more angular, if that's even a word. Let's look at the side profiles, and we'll start with the Jenny, which is what I've nicknamed the Genesis. So the GV70, again, it's the compact small SUV. So I'm about 6'1", and I do tower over it a little bit. But let's talk about some of the body lines. So what I noticed just now, when I was standing up here earlier, I noticed there was like a little lip on the hood that's like kind of like overlapping the fender. And I was like, that's a weird body style, I guess you could say. And then I followed it. And when I followed it down, you see this other body line here. So it's like two body lines near each other. And it continues to the back of the vehicle, but as it gets towards the very back, it starts to kind of taper and get smaller and go lower. A good friend of mine, Paul, tells me body lines like this are actually have a big structural component to them, but also it just looks really sharp. It creates a little bit of a flow from left to right. It's kind of like painting a fence with those swipes, and I don't really know what I'm talking about, but that's what it's like. Let's talk about the wheels. So this package has a 21-inch Michelin tire setup with kind of like, yeah, it's like a 5-spoke sort of windmill type design. Interesting enough, behind there is a decent sized brake caliper from what I can see. It might be a 6-piston. If not, the caliper is the size of a 6-piston, and overall quite a joy to look at. In terms of body decorations and stuff like that, I mean, there's another little line towards the bottom, but that's all painted. I do like the Genesis does that, is that a lot of those accents are painted, the body color, instead of like the plastic, which I know is like more durable, but still kind of cool to look at. We got some chrome, which looks great with that green color. So some chrome going around those windows. And actually, it's a cool little body line. It just kind of like flows down, kind of reminds me of the RX. Painted mirror caps with the black bottoms, as well as regular door handles. But I have to tell you, how solid that feels. Lexus is known for stuff like that, but to see our competition really holding their own with that door sound and how heavy the door feels. Good job, Genesis. You're doing good. You're doing really good. Then as you get to the back, I mean, compact SUV, so it's not like we're expecting big windows here, but there is a little bit, actually, that is a little window there too, kind of like the RX. A little bit of a window setup, small window there for the rear. I did check. They are a square setup, meaning the rears are 255s and the fronts are 255. So you can rotate tires. Again, when you get into some of the higher performance stuff, you can't do that. So the fact that the Genesis has that is a good sign. Let's compare it to the NX. Okay, so over at the NX Executive, it's not my favorite wheel in the lineup, but it does look good, especially with like a black exterior, I find. This one has sort of like a little bit of exposed aluminum. So it's like those, 5 of the spokes have that exposed. The rest is kind of like, honestly, even in other colors, it's almost the same as the body color. This one, it's almost like that Cloudburst Nebula Gray. And I know that's kind of, you know, the case on all of them. So that's kind of cool. The brake setup is much smaller than the Genesis for sure, because this isn't a sport one. The sport ones do have a little bit more of aggressive brake. We got a Bridgestone tire on there. And then let's talk about the body line. So even though this is not the sport, kind of side by side, the NX looks a little bit more athletic. So we have this sharper line right down the center that tapers up. The roof line, you know what? I think they're pretty similar. Maybe the NX is a little bit taller at the back there, but not a crazy amount. We got some chrome going around the windows as well, a chrome on the mirror cap with the paint, and the electronic door handle, which if you've seen any of my videos, I'm a big fan of, and a really solid door as well. The reason I like the electronic door handle so much is actually the getting out part, where you can just like apply pressure and move in one motion instead of like grabbing the lever and using your elbow. I know I've said that a million times, but I mean it. I really like that about the electronic door latch. We got a little bit of piano black in the center, and then the body kit on the sides is that plastic I talked about. I know it's durable. This is a very outside part of your car that gets full of dust and sand and dirt and stuff. But seeing the Genesis with the painted part, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool too. So whatever floats your boat. Another square setup with the tires, so you could rotate them front to back. And then we have a little glass here. So that Genesis almost looks bigger in this section by a little bit because of that glass. So that is something to think about. Okay, so let's do the back, and we'll start with the Genesis, and boy, does that Jenny have a nice back end. So we have these taillights that sort of swoop around, and the reason I like them so much is they seem timeless. They don't seem like a 2026, which by the way, this model is. They seem like it could have been from years past or designed from a European brand 20 years ago. You don't know. And I do think that is really cool. They're very flush. They have the signals built into them as well. So when you put those on, it's a different part that lights up. We got that Genny, Genesis, right across the back there. Very similar in the market right now. Lexus does it, Jaguar does it, Porsche does it, everybody does it. We got an exposed wiper here, which by the way, is where you press the button for the trunk. And how genius is that? It's so flush, the back, that's where they put it, and I think that's really smart. Ooh, and there's like a nice little sort of light right there. I guess that's so like if you're on the side of the road and you have your trunk open, it's like a taillight. It's like showing people. Big kudos to Genesis Niagara, by the way, because look how satisfying that trunk is. The way that they've detailed it shows very big pride in their product, and I want to thank them one more time for doing such a great job and letting me use this. Size-wise, I mean, really usable space. It's about hip height, so easy to load and unload. Decent size width, obviously smaller than things like the GV80 and the RX. However, in this segment, it's right there with all the rest. Tonneau cover, nice material, clips in, and then if you want to move it, you can. It's kind of like a paper. It sounds like paper. We got levers that we can fold down those seats, which is great. A little 12 volt, I call it the cooler plug, because you can plug in a cooler back there. I have to peek just because I'm curious. Oh, this is the books. Nice. I'm gonna open up the back here because I don't know about spare tire. Okay. We have a spare tire. So there's a full-size spare tire back there and a kit to be able to change it. Overall, very usable space. Okay, over to the NX, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but in this comparison, this is like the more edgy, more modern looking design language, where the Genesis is a little bit more of that old money. And the reason I say I can't believe I'm saying that is because when I compared this to the BMW, for instance, I felt the opposite. I felt like we were the old money, which I'm a fan of. So anyway, let me show you around. So we have the 3-piece taillights. So we have one of this classic Lexus logo on each side of that Katana style top light. And I like the Katana style top light because it has a really good 3-dimension to it. So when I'm looking at it from every different angle, it kind of looks a little bit different, and at nighttime, it looks super sharp, and I love that. Then we have that LE-XUS, which I feel like is getting bigger, but I could just be going crazy. We got our NX350H, which is what this one is. And then, you know, a little bit of piano black and a little bit of textured black towards the bottom. Opening it up, and it's a very quick open. Again, we have a very usable trunk space. So decent height, decent depth, decent width. Maybe the Genesis is slightly bigger back there, I bet. We have a different style tonneau cover here. It's kind of like, I guess, a foldable one. So instead of having to like roll it, it's kind of always out, and then you can fold it, you can hang it up, you can do things like that. We have some storage on the sides. This one being the executive, you can fold down the rear seats with power. And this one being the hybrid is there is no spare tire here, but there is extra space. So if you look here, I can almost reach up to my elbow in space just right there alone. Plus here is that's the actual battery, but there is a tire repair kit in there somewhere. And of course it comes with 2 sets of mats. It's got some grocery hooks. We have a cooler plug back there. And there's also a net that goes kind of across here. So probably slightly smaller than the Genesis, but still a lot of amenities in that trunk. Okay, so looking inside the Genesis, and I'm super excited to be in here because I do really like this interior. If I had to describe this interior, it would be none other than modern, which is silly because I know I just said that the back end of this thing is not modern. But let me explain. We have a beautiful, very direct ambient lighting when you're greeted in. We have some really high-end materials here, which I love that car brands in 2026 and 2025 are not cutting corners when it comes to like the materials they use for interior. And Genesis is showing us that. Really good job, Jenny. I'm falling in love with you. I'm a Lexus guy, die hard, but this is a really good competitor. So we have a lot of that material sort of all around. I mean, your classic amenities on that side. In the center here, I like that it's a big center console with just a few buttons. We don't have too many layers. We don't have too many things like that. We have the shifter, which is very easy to use. It's just like a little dial, and I saw that in the GV70 when I used that. The reason I like this is to go from drive to reverse is that easy. You just go bam, bam. Bam, bam, let me with that, bam, bam. And then to park, you just hit park. So really easy to switch between gears. Funny that they chose the same type of dial for like their multimedia system. But again, I guess you'll get used to it, especially where your armrest is. I mean, it's pretty easy. You're relaxed with whatever one you're pressing. Then we have a little armrest here. It's small, it's cute, it does the trick. We have USB-C in there. We have a wireless charger right here in front of that, which is nice. And it says NFC, which is near field communication. So I wonder what that does to your phone when you put it there. Couple cup holders, nothing too crazy there. I will say, and maybe I'll just turn it on. By the way, good sound. That's a good sound. It does a good job. We're gonna hit no to finding a gas station for now. Then we have our home button, our menu button, and our back button all up there. Pretty ergonomic. And you know, there's a lot of features in this multimedia display. Like I could do a whole video on just that. Things like quiet mode, which I think is very thoughtful. So quiet mode means the radio media is only played to the front seats, meaning if you had a couple sleeping kids back there or sleeping golden doodle like I do, it won't wake them up, which I think is cool. I'm gonna go back because there was another feature I wanted to showcase. On the GV80, you could pick the ambience, and I wanted to see if we could do that here. I might need Brian or Bailey at Genesis to show me, but nonetheless, I heard it's like the same display, so I'm sure you can do that. So lots of good things happening there. We have our little climate panel here, which is really nice. It is like touch, and it's really sharp. Wow, and it's fast. So that's all digital here. We have cooled seats and heated seats in the front. We have dual climate, and all your other stuff is there. Some shortcuts here, so we could go map, we could go nav, we could go media for like some quick media. Oh, here it is, Sounds of Nature. So if we click Sounds of Nature, oh yeah, that's lovely. Really cool. After the day I've had today at work, I would love to drive home listening to that. Or there's one on a sailing ship, which all my friends will laugh that I used to be super into pirates when I was growing up. But it's fun. I know it's a gimmick. I know that it's a novelty, but I think it's cool that brands are starting to do some other experiential stuff like that. Okay, let's talk about the steering wheel. So I always say with Genesis, sometimes I feel like I'm in a different brand, like a Mercedes. And that's how I feel with some of these controls. It reminds me of the Benz on the steering wheel here. So we got the wheel for our music, which is always super easy. We got this other little trackpad thing to control other screen related activities. We got a little star for like some favorites. We have some paddle shifters. I did use the paddle shifters earlier today. They're not that fast, but that's okay. The NX is not that fast either. But like the RX seems to be, the IS seems to be. I bet you maybe the sports car Genesis seems to be. So that's just that. Then we have our cruise controls and some other controls here. Oh, you can customize that infinity style display to a million different versions and configurations and stuff, and it looks really cool. So definitely a lot of bespoke options there. And like I said, the materials all around on this interior are really good, super sharp. Oh, sunglass holder, yep, sunglass holder, which is always great. And then obviously just our map lights. And it also has a black roof liner, which I thought was interesting because it's a brown interior. Oh, one more thing. You can move this seat from right here, which I thought is cool. It's very Lexus flagship-like. The seats themselves, pretty comfortable. They're the perforated ones. You can't extend the thigh, but that's totally okay. In a car this size, I didn't really expect it. But let's take a look at the back and see how the back seat is. Okay, so sitting in the back of the GV70, it's bigger back here than I thought at first. So I have pretty ample headroom. I mean, the seating position itself is pretty good, and it has a reclining back seat, which in this segment, you wouldn't believe how hard that is to find. I do find it pretty comfortable back here. We have a little armrest and cup holders. I did hit my knee a few times, but that's because this seat moved back when we shut it off. You have heated seats back here. This package doesn't have cooled seats, but I think you can get it in that bigger engine one. The seats themselves, super comfy, as I said. There's a little map pocket, a couple little coat hangers and things like that. So overall, pretty decent back here for a 6'1" guy. And it does have a panel roof, which is always great for passengers in the back seat. Okay, so sitting in the NX Executive, and I do feel home because I had almost this exact same car as a demo for a long time, except mine wasn't the high package of the Executive. It was a few down. But anyway, first impressions versus the GV70 is the layers. Here we have much more layers of things going on. So that is one question to ask yourself about how you picture your luxury. We have some wood grain, which is really nice. We have some piano black, a couple grays, obviously these Rioja red seats, and a ton of buttons and features. Armrest that opens both ways, and it's a pretty deep armrest, might I say. Some cup holders, an electronic shifter, as well as some terrain buttons and things like that. We have our wireless charger and another little pocket here. And then when we turn on the hybrid motor and the vehicle itself, you're greeted by a giant Lexus screen. And on here, we have our Lexus multimedia system, which I would always say for like decades past, I would never write a book on Lexus's multimedia systems. But now with this latest one, it's good. It's like ahead of the pack, and I really think they did a great job on it. In there, you can customize all of your ambient lighting, which there's a lot here. If you're into ambient lighting though, the Lexus one is indirect light, meaning it's not supposed to be a distraction, it's supposed to be like shading in the background. That Genesis has direct light, so it's like you can really notice it. But on here, we have things like auto park feature, bird's eye view, all of the features in the Executive, and a really high-end Mark Levinson sound system. A heads-up display, which was on both models, as well as still a customizable bit here. The screen itself is customizable, yes, but on the Lexus, you can customize these finger buttons, I'm gonna call them. Your steering wheel controls are totally customizable. We do have some paddle shifts, as well as, you know, just a few buttons kind of off to the side there. Radar cruise control, Lexus Safety System Plus is standard on all Lexus models, so you don't have to pay extra for safety features. Those are all built in. And I didn't think the Genesis had this, but we have that digital rear view mirror where if you have tons of people in the back seat or boxes stacked to the roof or your golden doodle looking at you in the back, you can switch that, and now the camera on the back is what you're seeing through the mirror. We do have a sunglass holder, just like the Genesis, and black headliner as well. And overall seating position is gonna be pretty similar. I think maybe I'm sitting a little more upright in the Lexus, but really hard to say because they're both super comfy. Okay, in the back of the NX, I'm also pretty comfortable for being a small SUV. I've reclined my seat to be to the setting I like it. I have an armrest, I have heated seats, and things like USB-Cs and 12-volt outlets to charge. We still have some nice wood grain back here with the Mark Levinson logo. It's not gigantic. I prefer the RX back seat if I'm going on like a long trip, but it still does the trick. And we have that panel roof. So again, for rear seat passengers, it is super important to have things like that to make it feel more spacious. But pretty neck and neck with the Genesis in terms of size and amenities. And as my good friend Dane would say, at the end of the day, both of these vehicles are very easy to see why they're the top in this class. And this class vehicle, it's easy to see why it's the biggest growing segment in the luxury market today. There's the GV70, which you can get at a decently priced low-end spec with some really nice features and some class to it, or spec it out to an $85,000 monster with a ton of horsepower, a ton of features, and a ton of class. And then we have the Lexus, which with all of the configurations you can do, you can really find the package and powertrain that fit what you're looking for. No, our horsepower isn't our middle name on this car, but fuel economy is. And it's undeniable that Lexus still maintains that amazing reliability and resale value that has built this brand over years. So if you're looking at these two cars, you might want to ask yourself, are you looking for that really classy, high spec'd out small SUV that's kind of the new kid on the block and looks amazing? Or are we gonna go with something like the NX that's gonna favor things like fuel economy, reliability, and resale value? It all just depends. And I'm proud to say that one of our closest competitors, the Genesis, is doing such a good job to be up against the NX. So let me know in the comments below which one you would choose, the Genesis GV70 or the Lexus NX350 hybrid. And then again, a big shout out to Brian and Bailey and all of those at Genesis Niagara. If you are looking for a Genesis, make sure you hit those guys up and check out their new dealership right here in St. Catharines. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you find me on Instagram and shoot me a DM with any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.